The Voice, the dark reason Gina Zo left music biz. Just making it to the audition phase of The Voice can sometimes be the springboard someone needs to launch their music career. However, for Gina Zo, who auditioned when she was still a teenager, it led to her quitting the music business. So what did the former contestant have to say? Auditioning for The Voice can change lives, as The Voice viewers have seen over the years. You don't have to win the crown to have a successful music career. People who didn't even make it far in the competition can have more successful careers than eventual winners. Sometimes, that's just how the cookie crumbles. A perfect example of this is none other than Morgan Wallen. He is one of the biggest, most successful country artists out today. He continues to sell out stadiums and make hit records. However, when you look at his tenure on The Voice, while he did manage to make it to the top 20, he certainly didn't win. Still, looking at him today, that loss on the show turned out to be the biggest win for him and his career. Gina Zo competed as a teen in Season 10. The Voice contestant, Gina Zo competed as part of Season 10 of the singing competition when she was only 17 years old. This can be a lot for a young person to digest, especially with all the bright lights and attention at such a young age. Blake Shelton turned his chair around for Gina, and she was even later mentored by Blake's wife and no doubt singer, Gwen Stefani. She was beaten in the battle rounds of the competition. Still, it was a lot to take in for someone who was fresh out of high school at the time. The Voice, the dark reason Gina Zo quit the music industry. While some competitors like Morgan Wallen used their experience on The Voice to launch a major music career, her time on the program initially had the opposite effect on Gina Zo. In a recent interview, she said, "I realized for a bit that I hated the music industry, that it was awful that people were so sexist and didn't trust young women and just wanted to use them. And so I quit for a while. And when I went back, that's when I formed Velvet Rouge a couple of years ago." These days, Gina Zo is back, performing with her band, Velvet Rouge. She seems to know what not to do, so that people don't take advantage of her. She went on to say that in this business, everyone wants a piece of you. At least these days, with her band, she has more control over the pieces of her that people get, and that seems to be making all the difference. For all the latest The Voice news, come back again to TV shows Ace for more. Gina Zo, a vibrant young artist with a promising future, rose to prominence during her appearance on the hit reality show The Voice. With her signature style and hauntingly beautiful voice, she captivated audiences and judges alike, even sparking comparisons to indie sensations like Florence Welch and Bjork. Her journey on The Voice seemed like the beginning of a fairy tale until the dream ended abruptly. In a move that shocked her fans and the music industry alike, Gina Zo quietly faded from the spotlight, stepping away from the very industry that had thrust her into stardom. What could have driven such a talented artist to walk away? The answer lies in a darker, more complex reality than anyone could have imagined. The illusion of fame for many aspiring musicians, The Voice represents a golden ticket to the big leagues. It's a platform that promises exposure, mentorship, and the potential for a life-changing career. And for Gina Zo, it seemed like all of this was within her grasp. She brought something different to the competition, an ethereal sound, a raw energy, and a passion for authenticity that resonated with many. However, behind the glitz and glamour of the show lies a grueling and highly controlled process that can leave contestants feeling more like products than artists. Gina Zo, who had entered the competition with high hopes of artistic freedom, quickly discovered that reality TV was less about nurturing her individuality and more about molding her into something commercially viable. The pressure to conform to marketable norms, both musically and personally, became suffocating. The experience began to chip away at her sense of self, raising doubts about whether the industry she had dreamed of joining was where she truly belonged. In interviews after her exit, Gina alluded to the intense pressure she felt to compromise her unique sound for something more mainstream. Producers pushed for easily digestible hits, encouraging contestants to veer toward what would chart well rather than what resonated with their personal vision. For an artist like Gina, who thrived on creating music that was deeply personal and unconventional, the constraints of the industry were limiting, if not entirely stifling. The machine behind the curtain beyond the artistic restrictions, Gina Zo's exit from the music industry reveals another, more insidious layer of her decision. Reality TV shows like The Voice often act as launching pads for careers, but they also serve as engines of a much larger, far less forgiving machine. Contestants may walk onto the stage with dreams of fame and fortune, but many leave with the weight of contracts, obligations, and the pressure of maintaining relevance in an industry that moves at lightning speed. After her time on The Voice, Gina found herself facing the harsh realities of the music business. She was no longer just an artist, she had become a commodity. Record labels and managers saw her as a product to be polished, marketed, and sold. The artistic control she longed for was increasingly out of her hands, with decisions about her career path being made by executives far removed from her creative process. But the real breaking point for Gina came when she was faced with the unspoken rules of the industry, the sacrifices and compromises that often go hand in hand with success. In a music industry rife with exploitation, where stories of manipulation, underpayment, and even abuse are alarmingly common, Gina found herself at odds with the demands being placed on her. The pressure to constantly produce content, maintain a certain image, and cater to an ever-changing audience took its toll on her mental health. Her disillusionment wasn't unique. Many artists who achieve fame at a young age, particularly in a system as demanding as the music industry, struggle with maintaining a sense of autonomy and well-being. As Gina began to see the darker side of the business, the promise of fame began to feel more like a trap. Instead of thriving as an artist, she felt like she was being consumed by the very industry she had once idolized. The struggle for mental health. Gina Zo has been open about the toll that the music industry took on her mental health. Like many artists, she struggled with anxiety and depression, exacerbated by the constant pressure to succeed, stay relevant, and meet expectations that seemed impossible to achieve. In an interview, she mentioned feeling like she was living in a fishbowl, constantly scrutinized, judged, and critiqued both by industry insiders and the public. The constant demand for content, combined with the pressure to craft a perfect public persona, began to erode her mental well-being. The music industry, with its emphasis on social media presence and public image, often leaves little room for artists to focus on self-care. For Gina, the weight of this pressure became unbearable. She struggled with the dissonance between who she was as a person and who the industry wanted her to be. The long hours, the lack of privacy, and the relentless cycle of touring, recording, and promoting left her with little time to reflect, heal, or simply be herself. Gina's struggles with mental health were compounded by the lack of support from the industry. Though mental health issues among artists have become more widely discussed in recent years, the infrastructure to provide real support is still lacking. The constant grind of producing and promoting music, combined with the demands of maintaining a public image, often leaves little space for artists to prioritize their mental health. Gina's experience is a stark reminder of the human cost of fame, a cost that the music industry is often all too willing to ignore in favor of profits. Seeking authenticity in the end, Gina Zo's departure from the music business was about more than just walking away from fame. It was a decision born out of a desire to reclaim her identity, her mental health, and her artistic integrity. For Gina, music was never about chart-topping hits or platinum records. It was about expressing her innermost thoughts and emotions, about creating something meaningful and authentic. But in an industry driven by sales and clicks,